Chapter 1. Hunger in the Neon Void. The orbital station never slept. Its arteries of steel and glass pulsed with the glow of 100 alien languages, projected across neon billboards that clung to the curve of the habitat ring. Ventilation ducts exhaled sour chemical air, heavy with spice fumes and the iron tang of recycled water. Voices overlapped in the market concourse. Traders haggling, predators laughing, prey whispering in the shadows. Selkara moved through it all with the posture of a huntress, but hunger dulled her movements. Her fur, once glossy obsidian, hung coarse against her frame. The cub at her side, thin limbs, ribs visible beneath striped skin, kept tugging weakly at her hand. His wide golden eyes searched the stalls with need that burned hotter than any warrior's fire. The station had nothing for the weak. On Zathri worlds, her kind had once been feared, their clans ruling with tooth and claw. But here, among the scavengers and drifters of the void, a predator with no power was just another beggar. Selkara knew this truth too well. She paused near a stall that smelled of real food, meat, spiced and sizzling, its juices dripping onto a heated plate. Her throat constricted. Her cub whimpered. The vendor behind the counter was human. He looked fragile compared to the scale merchants and tusked guards nearby, bare skin exposed under a patched jacket, hair mussed, face lined not with scars but with weariness. Yet his eyes, a sharp blue, followed every movement around his stall with quiet calculation. A small display hovered above his stand, ration packs, tools, and, gods above, fresh protein strips. Selkara's voice rasped, low so only her cub could hear. "Do not beg. We will find another way." But the cub let go of her hand and drifted closer to the counter, drawn by the smell. His thin fingers brushed the edge of the display. The human glanced down. For a long breath, Selkara's muscles coiled, expecting mockery or a bark threat, with a cold indifference that all stationers shared. Instead, the human reached below his counter, pulled out a wrapped bundle, and crouched until he was eye level with the cub. "Here," he said, his voice soft but carrying under the market noise. "Eat this before you fall over." The cub froze, staring at the offering like it was a weapon. Selkara stepped forward, lips peeling back to bare sharp teeth. "We are no charity." The human's gaze met hers, steady, unflinching. "It isn't charity. It's food. He's hungry." Around them, the neon haze reflected off polished metal and dirty floors, casting the moment in surreal light. Selkara felt her pride war with the instinct to snatch the bundle and flee. In her culture, a debt to prey was a chain around the soul. Yet her cub reached forward, took the package, and bit into it with a muffled sob of relief. Selkara's claws dug into her palms until blood beaded. The human straightened, not triumphant, not pitying, just calm. "Sometimes feeding someone," he said, returned to his stall, "is worth more than credits." Selkara's throat tightened. She had never felt so powerless, nor so indebted. Chapter 2. A Predator's Pride. Selkara should have slept. The cub was finally full, breathing deeply in the corner of their cramped quarters, his belly rising and falling with the rhythm of a dream. But Selkara's own body remained taut, coiled as if the station walls themselves mocked her. The hum of the habitat's life support grid thrummed through the metal floor beneath her claws. Faint blue light seeped through the vent slats, casting stripes across her fur. She could still smell the human's food clinging to her son's muzzle, sweet and savory. It gnawed at her pride worse than hunger ever had. Her people did not take alms. A Zathri predator gave nothing for free and expected nothing freely given. Yet this human had shattered the balance. She owed him now a debt deeper than blood. At dawn cycle, she slipped from her quarters, leaving her cub curled in blankets. The marketplace was stirring awake. Vendors flicked on hollow displays, neon letters blinking alive in languages from 100 worlds. The air was thick with mingled scents, roasting meat, chemical cleaners, coolant leaks. Selkara moved with the silent grace of her ancestors, her claws tapping once, twice against the railing as she climbed a higher level to watch. The human, Jace, she learned from a passing customer, was already at his stall. His posture was relaxed but alert, shoulders squared, eyes scanning with quiet awareness. She expected to see him gloat, to lord his food over desperate aliens. Instead, she saw him repairing a customer's broken wrist comm with deft fingers, refusing payment until the device hummed back to life. Selkara narrowed her eyes. Later, she watched him intercept a gang of tusked bruisers shaking down a younger vendor. Jay stepped between them, not foolishly aggressive but firm, hands open to show he carried no weapon. His words didn't carry to her perch, but his stance did, unyielding, calm as stone. When the thugs left, muttering curses, the young vendor's shoulders sagged with relief. Why would prey risk itself for others with no clan bond, no blood ties? Zathri gave loyalty only to kin, and even then it was sharpened by dominance. Her tail lashed once against the railing. She tracked him across the day cycle, through crowded alleys where holographic koi swam across walls, through the press of Spice Market where smoke curled green and gold. He traded without deception, worked without arrogance. To everyone else, he was just another human, fragile, tolerated, forgettable. But Selkara's predator's instincts whispered something else. This one was dangerous, not because of his strength, but because of his strangeness. When night cycle dimmed the station's lights, she descended to the shadows below his stall. He was closing shop, humming softly, some human melody, low and steady. Selkara stepped forward, claws clicking against the deck. Jace froze, then glanced over his shoulder. Been following me all day, haven't you? Her lips curled back, not in a smile. You fed my cub. That makes me your debtor. He set his tools aside, studying her without flinching. The neon glow caught in his blue eyes, steady as before. I wasn't asking for repayment. Her chest rumbled with frustration. A debt unclaimed rots the soul. I will not let it stand. For the first time, she saw his mouth curve, not mocking but faintly amused. You Zathri make life sound like an accounting ledger, he said. Some things don't need balancing. Selkara's claws flexed. She did not understand him, and that made him more dangerous than any predator she had ever hunted. Chapter 3, The Offer. The docking concourse was quieter during night cycle. The endless flood of vendors and passengers had ebbed, leaving only the muffled hum of grab plates beneath the floor and the distant drone of cargo haulers sliding through vacuum docks. Neon signs flickered with tired light, painting broken colors across the metallic walls. Selkara stood at the edge of the human stall. Her shadow stretched long under the failing glow strip above, claws gleaming faintly. The cub slept elsewhere, safer now. Tonight was not about him. It was about honor. Jace was wiping down a counter, slow and methodical, his sleeves rolled up to the elbows. His tools were stacked neatly, his goods packed away. Only his eyes shifted when he noticed her presence. Calm, steady, too clear for prey. You're early, he said, voice low, carrying easily in the half-empty concourse. Or late. Depends how you look at it. Selkara's throat tightened. She did not want words. Words were weak, twisting things. So she stepped forward, letting her claws scrape the metal counter, with a sound like knives unsheathed. I am Selkara of the Red Fawn Line. You fed my cub. That debt is mine now. Jay set the rag aside, leaning his weight against the counter. His expression was neither mocking nor afraid, just curious. We've been through this already. No, she snapped, tail lashing once behind her. You misunderstand. My people do not leave debts unsettled. You gave life. Life must be repaid. His brows furrowed slightly, but his voice stayed calm. Repayment doesn't work that way. I didn't do it for gain. She drew herself tall, every muscle in her predator's frame taut with the weight of the moment. Then, slowly, deliberately, she lowered her head in a gesture that was as close to submission as her kind allowed. My claws are yours. My body is yours. My life is yours. Her voice dropped to a growl, rough with shame and conviction. I offer myself to you, human, as protector, as servant, as mate if you command it. The debt will be balanced. For the first time, Jace looked truly taken aback. His lips parted, then closed again. He scrubbed a hand over his face, exhaling in disbelief. You're serious. Her golden eyes narrowed. I not speak in jest. Silence stretched, broken only by the faint pulse of the station systems, the heartbeat of the metal giant around them. Finally, Jace pushed away from the counter, stepping closer until he was within reach of her claws. He tilted his head up to meet her glare, without flinching. You think debt is a chain, he said softly. Where I come from, kindness isn't a trap. You don't owe me. You don't belong to me. Selkara's chest heaved, confusion and fury mingling. No prey had ever refused such an offer. To refuse was to mock her honor. And yet his eyes held no mockery, only that infuriating, unshakable calm. Her claws trembled against the counter's edge. For the first time in her life, Selkara felt cornered not by force, but by something far more dangerous. By a human's refusal to play the predator's game. Chapter 4. Shadows in the Station. The station always had shadows, even when neon blazed from every wall. They clung in the alleys where vents belched steam, with a scent of oil mixed with decay, where credits changed hands with knives instead of ledgers. Selkara knew those shadows well, and tonight she smelled the hunt. They were being followed. She and Jace walked side by side to the lower concourse, the hum of grab plates vibrating faintly beneath their boots and claws. Above, holographic advertisements ripple across the ceiling. Drinks from desert worlds, genetic augments, false promises of glory. But Selkara's ears stayed tuned to the scrape of feet that stopped when they stopped, the faint hiss of weapons charging in the dark. Station enforcers, she muttered, tail twitching low. Corrupt carrion feeders. They don't like prey that stands too tall. Jace didn't break stride. His jacket was zipped tight, his eyes scanning but calm. Yeah, I noticed the unfriendly stares. Guess I made the wrong friends helping that vendor yesterday. Selkara glanced at him. Any other being would reek of fear by now. The anticipation of blood, the press of predators closing in. But the human's pulse, she realized with surprise, was steady. He didn't bare his teeth, didn't posture. He simply kept walking, adjusting his route toward the cargo hangars. Then the trap closed, for enforcers stepped from the shadows ahead, hulking insectoids with armored carapaces, mandibles clicking in unison. Another pair emerged behind, weapons glowing faint green. Human. The leader rasped in trade tongue. You interfere too much. Leave your stall. Leave this station. Or bleed out here. Selkara's claws flexed, scraping sparks from the deck. Her fur bristled as she shifted to shield his flank. Touch him, and I'll tear your thoraxes apart. Jace exhaled slowly. Negotiations off the table, then. The first shot seared the air. Plasma hissed past Jace's ear, blistering the bulkhead. In the same breath, Selkara leapt, her body a blur of black fur and flashing claws. She ripped through the nearest enforcer's weapon arm, mandibles shrieking as the limb fell smoking to the deck. Jace moved with startling precision. He kicked a crate into another attacker's legs, ducked low under a swipe, and smashed the control panel with his fist. Gravity faltered. then cut out entirely. The fight spiraled into chaos. Bodies spun in zero-G, weapons tumbling. Selkara's instincts roared with exhilaration as she launched herself from wall to wall, claws rending through carapace. Jace, weightless but calm, snatched a floating tool from his belt and jammed it into a plasma rifle's vent, forcing an explosion that lit the corridor in blinding green. When the last enforcer drifted unconscious, the grav plate stuttered back to life, slamming everything to the floor. Selkara landed on all fours, chest heaving, for scorched with plasma burns. Jace pushed himself up, wincing but alive, smoke curling from his sleeve. He met her eyes and unbelievably grinned. Not bad for prey, huh? Her breath caught. In that moment, Selkara realized something terrifying. She hadn't fought to protect her debt. She'd fought to protect him. Chapter 5. The Cub's Voice. The cub's den smelled of warmth again. Not the bitter stench of hunger or rusted pipes, but of cooked meat, clean water, and the faint metallic tang of Jace's tools stacked in the corner. The fight with the enforcers had left Selkara's muscles aching, her fur singed in places, but her cub's laughter healed more than the med gel ever could. He sat curled beside Jace on the floor, gnawing on a protein strip, as if it were a feast fit for kings. His golden eyes gleamed bright, no longer dulled by exhaustion. Between bites, he made a sound Selkara hadn't heard in too long, a bubbling trill, childish and pure. It was laughter. Jace chuckled softly, handing the cub another strip. Slow down, kid. You'll choke. The cub trilled again, mimicking Jace's words in broken trade speak. Slow down. His small voice cracked but carried, filling the tiny room like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Selkara's claws tightened against the thighs. Her people's cubs spoke late, their first words often delayed by harsh training and harder lives. For her son to speak now, because of a human, was more than miracle. It was a brand across her pride. You teach him your tongue, she said, voice rougher than intended. Jace glanced up from where he sat cross-legged, the cub leaning against him. His expression was tired but warm. I just talked to him. Kids pick things up fast when they feel safe. Safe. The word cut deeper than any blade. No Zathri cub had ever learned safety. Only strength. Only the law of claw and dominance. Yet her child's small body leaned into Jace's side, his trust instinctive and unguarded. Selkara rose, pacing the cramped quarters. Her tail lashed against the walls as she tried to smother the unease clawing at her chest. My kin will hear of this, she muttered. They will say I am corrupted, that I let prey twist the cub's spirit. Jace stood slowly, careful not to wake the child now dozing against the blankets. His voice was quiet, steady as ever. Maybe they're wrong. Maybe strength isn't just claws and blood. She whirled on him, eyes blazing. Strength is survival. Without it, we die. Do you think your kindness would have kept the enforcers from gutting you? Jace didn't flinch. He stepped closer, his blue eyes meeting hers, unyielding. No, but we survived because you fought and because I thought a way to tilt the odds. Together, that's strength too. Her chest heaved, the growl of her throat breaking into something more fragile. She had lived her life believing strength was solitary, that debts and bonds were chains. Yet the cub's voice still echoed in her ears, his first words born not of dominance, but of laughter shared with human. Selkara's claws curled, no longer certain of what they defended. Her pride or the fragile, impossible thing Jace had already given her son. Chapter 6. The Predator's Debt Paid. The neon lights of the station's central concourse bled together in a dizzying haze. Scarlet signs, violet hollow banners, streaks of green from flickering plasma lamps. Crowds pressed back against the walls, giving space to the enforcers who marched forward, their weapons raised, mandibles clicking with cruel certainty. At the front, Selkara's cub dangled in the leader's clawed grip, his thin body thrashing, his voice shrill with terror. "Predator bitch." The enforcer spat in guttural trade speak. "You kneel or the cub dies. And the human, too. You broke our law when you chose prey." Selkara's breath burned in her chest, her claws digging into her palms until blood beaded. Her people's law was clear. Debts were chains. Honor demanded obedience. A true predator bowed to no one, but neither did she defy the order of her kind. Until now, Jay stepped forward, placing himself in the enforcer's sights without hesitation. The neon glow cut hard angles across his face, but his voice was calm. "You're not killing him. Or her." The enforcers laughed, mandibles rattling like blades. "Human, you have no clan, no weapons, no power. What can you offer but death?" Jace shrugged, almost casual, though Selkara saw the tension in his shoulders. "You'll find out." The cub cried out, "Mama," the word breaking through fear, filling the concourse like a battle horn. Selkara's world stilled. Her child had spoken not in the guttural tones of her people, but in the human tongue, clinging to hope and praise language. Her decision was made. With a snarl that shook the air, Selkara lunged. Her claws raked across the enforcer's carapace, forcing him to drop the cub. Jace dove, catching the child in his arms, rolling across the deck as plasma bolts sizzled overhead. The fight became chaos. Selkara ripped through one enforcer, blood spraying neon-lit arcs across the concourse. Jace hurled a stolen flash charge, detonated against the wall, the shockwave disorienting their enemies. Together they moved like halves of one blade, his cunning opening gaps, her ferocity cutting them down. When the last enforcer fell, the concourse rang with silence. Smoke curled from shattered lamps. Bystanders stared from the shadows, whispers already spreading. Selkara stood over the broken leader, her chest heaving, claws dripping. She raised her head high, her voice carrying with the authority of her bloodline. "My debt is paid, not in servitude, not in shame. Paid in blood, for him, for my cub, for the future I claim." Her golden eyes burned as she turned to Jace, who cradled the cub against his chest. The child's tiny claws clutched his jacket as if he belonged there. Selkara stepped close, lowering her head. "You fed my cub," she said, voice raw with something greater than pride. "Now I give you more than debt. I give you my clan, my loyalty, my heart. You are no prey, human. You are mine." The neon haze flickered around them, the crowd whispering of scandal, of betrayal, of impossible strength. But Selkara felt none of it. For the first time in her life, she was not bound by debt, but by choice. And that choice was Jace. The hum of the starship's engines filled the quiet cabin, a steady heartbeat against the silence of the void. Beyond the viewport, the stars stretched in endless rivers of light, alien constellations blazing like promises yet to be kept. Selkara stood at the glass, her cub asleep against her shoulder, golden eyes softened by dreams. Behind her, Jace adjusted a panel, the faint pulse of artificial gravity humming beneath his boots. The scars of the station fight were still raw. His jacket burned, her claws scarred. But in the stillness of the ship, there was only peace. "You could have left," Selkara said at last, her voice low, almost lost to the engines. "After all we cost you, after all the danger." Jay stepped closer, close enough that their reflections merged in the viewport. "I didn't feed your cub because I want a repayment. I stayed because, for the first time out here, I feel like I belong." Her chest tightened. The words struck deeper than any oath of her people. Slowly, she set the cub into a cradle seat, then turned, her claws trembling as they touched his hand. "You are no prey," she whispered. "You are my strength." He smiled, blue eyes steady. "And you're mine." Outside, The neon lights of the station dwindled to a spark in the distance, swallowed by the horizon of stars. Two figures stood side by side, predator and human, their futures no longer bound by debt, but by choice. And in the endless silence of space, that choice felt louder than any war cry.